You know, for centuries, we've been digging through these super complex philosophies, looking for answers to life's biggest questions. But what if the deepest truths aren't in some dense text? What if they're hiding in the simplest of stories? Today, we're going to unpack a few ancient tales that, believe it or not, hold some seriously practical keys for navigating our world right now. So the big question is, what can a handful of these seemingly simple fables really teach us? I mean, about dealing with all the craziness of modern life? Well, as we're about to see, the answer is way more direct and powerful than you might think.
Okay, so our first big idea, it's all about perception. It's this concept that the world isn't really what it is, but what we are. Now, that's a pretty major shift in thinking, so let's see how it actually works.
And this ancient Sanskrit saying, this is the key right here. Yata drishti tata srishti. Basically, it means, as you see, so is the world. It's this idea that our reality is a direct reflection of our own inner state, of our vision. Let's see how this plays out in a couple of classic stories. First up, picture this. There's a young boy on a mountain with his dad. He trips, yells out in pain, and suddenly he hears a voice yell back from the valley. He gets confused, a little angry, and shouts, "Who are you?" And right back at him comes the same angry question. Now he's totally convinced someone is out there just mocking him. But his father, he explains what's really going on, it's just an echo. And this is such a powerful metaphor for life itself, right? Life doesn't really have its own personality, it just reflects whatever we throw at it. If you put anger and mistrust out there, well, that's exactly what you're going to get back. But if you project kindness and love, that's what the world returns. In a way, our reality is just a reflection of our own attitude.
All right, let's build on that with another story. Imagine a super powerful, really arrogant politician goes to visit a humble sage. He expects everyone to just bow down to him, you know? But the sage doesn't even bother to look up. He just keeps his conversation going. And the politician, he is furious. So he just unloads on this poor sage. He's throwing every insult in the book at him. He calls him a fraud, a phony, says he's just exploiting people. He is absolutely determined to get a reaction, to prove how important he is by making the sage feel small. So after this whole tirade, when the politician's finally out of breath, the sage just calmly looks up and says, "I have no ill will towards you, but everything you just said about me, that actually describes you." Whoa. See, the insults were never about the sage at all. They were just a projection, a perfect mirror of the chaos and turmoil going on inside the politician. Okay, so if the world out there is just a mirror, then what about our inner world, right? What's going on inside? And that brings us to our next big idea. The notion that true peace isn't something you find out in the world, but something you build inside the fortress of your own mind. To get this, imagine this scene. There's a big art gallery, and they announce this huge contest with a massive prize for the one painting that best captures the true meaning of peace. Artists from all over the world send in their work, and there's a huge buzz. Everyone's excited to see the winner. And, you know, the paintings that come in are pretty much exactly what you'd expect. You've got these perfectly still lakes, super quiet moonlit nights, sunny meadows. They're all gorgeous, all serene, and they all show a world where there's absolutely no trouble at all. But then, the moment of truth. The winning painting is unveiled, and the crowd is just stunned. It's the total opposite of what they expected. It's a violent, chaotic storm. There's a raging waterfall, dark clouds, lightning cracking across the sky. People are confused. Some are even angry. They're whispering, "Did the judges make a mistake? What is this?" That's when the gallery owner tells everyone, "Hey, look closer." And hidden in all that chaos, right behind the raging waterfall, there's a tiny house. And through its window, you can see a man just standing there, perfectly calm. And the lesson here is just so powerful. True peace isn't about finding a life without storms. It's the ability to find your center right in the eye of the storm. And this internal state, this inner peace, it's not just about us. It has this ripple effect on everyone around us. Think about this story of a young girl with a really terrible temper. Her parents are just at their wits' end, until a wise teacher gives her a pretty strange task. So the teacher hands her a hammer and a bag of nails and says, "Every time you lose your temper, I want you to hammer one of these nails into this wall." The first day, she hammers in dozens. But pretty soon, she starts to realize that, hey, controlling her anger actually takes a lot less effort than hammering all these nails. Eventually, she gets a handle on it, and the teacher gives her a new task. For every day she goes without an outburst, she gets to pull one nail out. And finally, the day comes when the wall is totally clear. So the girl is super proud of herself, right? But the teacher just points to the wall. He says, "The nails are gone, but look at the holes. That wall will never be the same." Man, what a powerful image. The point is crystal clear. Hurtful words leave scars. You can apologize, sure. You can pull the nail out, but the wound, the hole, that remains. So, okay, our inner state is obviously a huge deal, but what happens when life throws a real curveball at us? When things get really tough? And that's our next theme, adversity, and how it's not the challenge itself that defines us, but our reaction to it. This is a really famous story. It's about a girl who is just crushed after failing a huge exam. Her father sees how heartbroken she is and takes her into the kitchen. He fills up 3 pots with water and puts each one on the stove to boil. He doesn't say a word, just sets this whole thing up. Then he puts 3 things into the pots of boiling water. Potatoes in one, eggs in another, and coffee beans in the last one. 20 minutes go by. He takes everything out and shows her what happened. The potato, which went in hard, came out soft and weak. The egg, which was fragile on the inside, came out hardened. But the coffee beans? They did something amazing. They didn't just survive the boiling water, they transformed it into something completely new and wonderful. And that's the big question he finally asks his daughter. And it's the question we can all ask ourselves. When adversity, the boiling water of life, hits you, what happens? Do you become soft and weak like the potato? Do you become hard and bitter like the egg? Or are you a coffee bean, the one who actually transforms the very circumstances that were supposed to break you? Which brings us to our final big idea that kind of ties everything together. We talked about perception, inner peace, how we react to challenges, and all of these stories, they're all pointing to the same fundamental truth. The power we're all searching for out there, it's already inside us. And for this, we've got one last story. It's about a humble stonecutter. He's pretty content, but one day he thinks to himself, "Man, this life is just too hard. I wish I had some real power." That night, he has a dream where his wish is granted, again and again and again. And so begins his crazy journey for power. He becomes a rich man, but then sees a politician has more influence. So he becomes the politician, but then feels powerless under the hot sun. So he becomes the sun, but then a cloud blocks his light. He becomes the cloud, but the wind just pushes him around. He becomes the wind, but he can't even move a giant mountain. So finally, he becomes the mountain, thinking, "Yes, I am invincible," until he feels a chisel start to chip away at him. And it hits him. A simple stone cutter has the power to change him. In that moment, he realized the power he'd been chasing all over the place, he had it from the very beginning. And that's really the heart of it all, isn't it? Because these aren't just children's fables or ancient myths. They're mirrors. They reflect our own anger, our own search for peace, our own reactions to life's boiling water, and our own hidden power. So the only real question left is, when you look into these mirrors, who do you see looking back?